Today, we're talking about a growing issue that affects all of us, even though we rarely see it: satellite analytics. It's basically technology that's watching our world from space. Our goal here is simple: to help you stay aware, stay calm, and understand how it all works. Okay, so let's start with something we can all picture. Imagine it's a busy Saturday and you're heading to the local mall. You find a parking spot, you walk inside, maybe you grab a coffee and browse a few stores. It's a totally normal, everyday activity, right? Well, what if I told you that simple trip to the mall is being watched? Not by the mall security cameras, but from hundreds of miles up in space. You see, these days, the sky isn't just the limit anymore. For a lot of companies, it's become a major source of insight. So that probably brings up a big question. How on earth is that even possible? Let's break down how satellites can actually see us, and more importantly, how they turn those simple pictures into really powerful patterns of information. It all starts with this number: 30 centimeters. Modern satellites can take pictures that are incredibly sharp, with a resolution down to 30 centimeters. Now, that might not sound like much, but what does it actually mean in practice? Well, a 30-centimeter resolution means that every single pixel in that satellite photo represents a square on the ground that's just 30 by 30 centimeters. That is detailed enough to not just see cars in a parking lot, but to actually count them, one by one. Okay, so here's how it works. First, the satellite snaps these super high-resolution pictures. Then, artificial intelligence scans those images, looking for patterns, like how many cars are there, or how many shipping containers are at a port. And here's the really crucial part: that satellite data is often combined or fused with other data, like information from our cell phones. And because it's all done from space, this can be done pretty much anywhere on the globe. All right, so that's the technology. But what's it actually being used for out here in the real world? The answer is a lot. It touches way more parts of our economy than you'd probably think. For instance, big hedge funds use this to predict a store's sales by counting the cars in its parking lots. Some analysts can even track the global oil supply just by measuring the shadows cast by the floating roofs on oil storage tanks. But it's not all about finance. The same technology is used to monitor deforestation in the Amazon, track melting ice caps, and even help guide aid workers after a natural disaster. And this creates a really interesting situation. See, most of us have to wait for a company to release its official quarterly report to know how it's doing. But a trader with access to this satellite data, they can get a pretty good idea of what's happening in almost real time, long before any official numbers come out. Now, this is obviously powerful stuff, and it brings up some really big questions about our privacy and what's fair. So let's calmly talk through what this all means for us. I think the first question that pops into most people's minds is a very direct one. Can they see me? Is some satellite up there identifying me by my face? The good news is, generally, the answer is no. This technology is not about recognizing your face. The real privacy concern is a bit more subtle. It comes from that data fusion we talked about. The anonymous dot that is you, moving around in public, can be matched with the location data from your phone. And that's what links your physical movements to your digital identity. And this brings us to a bigger philosophical question about fairness. When some companies or investors have access to this kind of predictive information and the rest of us don't, what does that do? Well, the concern is that it can create a pretty big advantage. It lets people who can afford this data predict what's going to happen in the market with a lot more certainty. And that can create an uneven playing field for everyone else. Which, of course, leads to maybe the most important question of all. Did we ever actually say yes to this? Did we consent to our movements in public being tracked and analyzed this way? And this is where it gets really different from other tech. You know how when you download an app, you have to scroll through and click "I agree"? Well, for this, there's no opt-in button. When you're in a public space, your movements can just become another data point in a set that gets analyzed, and you're never even asked. So after hearing all that, what can we actually do? Well, the goal here is not to be worried, it's just to be aware. Let's go through a few simple, practical things you can do to protect your digital life. First, just be aware that these different types of data are often being combined. Second, take a moment to manage the location settings on your phone. Turn off GPS sharing for any apps that don't absolutely need it. Third, just try to stay informed about the policies and rules being discussed for this kind of technology. And finally, when you can, support companies that make privacy a priority. But of all those steps, the most powerful one, the one you can control directly, is to manage your phone's location data. That's usually the key that connects the view from above with who you are down on the ground. And as always, this comes back to our core principle. When it comes to your digital information, always stop, think, and verify. Before you grant an app permission, just ask yourself, does it really need to know where I am all the time? The goal today was never to make you afraid of technology. It's just to help you stay informed and to be a little more cautious. Awareness really is protection. If you stay alert, you stay safe. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay aware, and please consider sharing this information with your family.